editor of 2 textbooks. She's contributed several publications, and she is also important member of this panel because she is a vice president of Indian Menopause Society. So through Food, Drugs and Medico-Surgical Equipment Committee, I welcome all. I thank Dr. Alpesh Gandhi, Dr. Ramani Devi, who is my vice president, and I welcome all the esteemed panelists. They are also all members of FOXI, and they have contributed a lot. So I welcome all. First of all, I welcome Dr. Suvarna Khadilkar. She is an eminent person, a personality, and she's working as, please put a next slide because you are operating the slides. Put Suvarna's slide. Just everybody see her later. But I want to introduce her because she is very close to my heart as well. She's a professor, head of the department, consultant endocrinologist, Bombay Hospital. She's a recognized teacher. Her basic interests are endocrinology. She is a treasurer, FOXI. She is also editor-in-chief of Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecological Societies of India, and she has brought better heights of this journal. And she is a past president of Indian Menopause Society as well. She has contributed a lot in FOXI, as well as she is an academician. She has over 300 guest lectures, orations, international and national index publications. Then I welcome, so we'll see her on screen. And next is Dr. Ambuja, who is she is a retired professor and head of the department of Osmania Medical College. She is a president-elect of Indian Menopause Society and also a president of Family Planning Association of India. Welcome, Madam Ambuja, Madam. Our third eminent person is Dr. Parag Biniwale. He is a senior consultant of Pune. He is a secretary ICOG, president Menopause Society Pune, and he has worked very nicely when he was Young Talent Promotion Committee of FOXI, and had done some of his very good workshops of assisted vaginal deliveries, and they were very popular. He has contributed various articles and journals, and thanks Dr. Mandakini Meg and Parag Biniwale for accreditation of this webinar for 1 credit hour. Then comes our Dr. Rohini Deshpande. She is a very close friend of mine. She was AMOG's president. She has contributed a lot. She is also a member of our Indian Menopause Society. She is a managing committee of Indian Cancer Society, as well as she is very good human being. She is a national mentor for Laksha program in government medical colleges. She has donated like a public-private partnership. She has given some, she has upgraded a labor room unit, an intensive care unit in obstetrics at Government Medical College, Solapur. Welcome, Dr. Rohini, to this board. Now, why we have chosen this menopausal therapy as webinar today? We all know menopausal hormone therapy is always surrounded by controversies. After revolutionary report from Women Health Initiative trial, now the various policies changed. Many practitioners stopped prescribing menopausal hormone therapy. And let us know what are the real effects of exogenous menopausal hormone therapy, whether this menopausal hormonal therapy is harmful, what is the timing of this menopausal hormonal therapy, when should we start this and when should we stop, what are the current recommendations, and really whether it is useful for various vasomotor symptoms, osteoporosis. We are really worried about some of the comorbidities and whether some side effects of this menopausal hormone therapy. And really, we want to know when to start for the right woman, right age, right hormonal therapy in the right dosage, and at the right route. So let us start our panel, and let us know more details about this. Kiran, can you change the slide, please, for me? Yeah. So menopause prevalence in India, around 730 lakhs women in India are in menopausal age. Only 5% of them, they get treated. We all know. So I invite for our first panel to discuss various cases. Of course, other panelists also can put their mind and heart into this. This is a common scenario that, of course, this is well-educated gynecologist who has come to your clinic, and she says that I get sweats in the labor room, I get irritable, I am having irregular periods, but still I have not attained menopause, and also she cannot sleep well. She has got hot flashes, and she's really confused what to do, whether a lifestyle modification can help her or any menopausal hormone therapy. Can madam throw some light that really how she will do the counseling, how she will say about what are the therapeutic options available for her, whether the lifestyle modification really helps in these conditions. Can Suvarna answer this?
Yeah, actually at the beginning, I would like to thank Vidya for allowing me to be on this panel. And I thank Dr. Alpesh Gandhi also for such a wonderful webinar, and as well as Shield Healthcare, who have really arranged it beautifully. This case is a gynecologist, 47-year-old, who has not yet become menopausal. She has irregular periods, so obviously she's a perimenopausal case. She has developed severe hot flashes, and she has to take leave from the work, so obviously her quality of life is gone down. She's unable to sleep also for nights due to these hot flashes, and she's confused whether she should take lifestyle modifications or go in for HRT. So let me tell you, friends, that it is not or HRT. The lifestyle modification has to begin even much in advance in perimenopausal age, and it is not an option of HRT. Lifestyle modification has to continue even if you opt for HRT. So what I feel is that this particular gynecologist, who is having lot of symptoms who are similar to postmenopausal or perimenopausal syndrome, she can first try lifestyle modifications, like avoiding too much hot fluids, and whatever you do, those symptoms which you get, they will be slightly decreased, but still she may feel the same kind of symptoms in spite of modifying the lifestyle. And she can go ahead and give it a short trial of oral contraceptive pills, because she's not completely menopausal, and certain or she can opt for any other hormonal therapy, and she can see whether these symptoms are relieved after taking this. And if so, if she feels better with this, she can continue with oral contraceptive pills and see if she gets better. I'm sure most of the the best of the best treatment is the estrogen for such women who
Yes.
kind of hot flashes and all that. But one word of precaution, that women, it is seen that women who have developed time and again these vasomotor symptoms, different hot flashes, sweating and all that, in future they may develop cardiac or cardiac elements. So
Yeah.
gynecologist should be careful, and she should get
In
her,
hypertensive patients, they have to be careful.
they have to be
To give
careful.
OC pills, but if they are not hypertensive, maybe they can take the HRT.
Yes.
Suvarna, just add which type of oral contraceptive pills you will use. The estrogen and progesterone combination.
Yeah,
Which combination you would like to have?
It should necessarily be a low dose, low dose pills, because it is also the high dose is not recommended beyond 40. So it will be a low dose pills, and I think
Okay, can we go on to the next case now?
if she is say borderline hypertensive, or she's little on, usually 47 or also little overweight, then even low dose estrogen along with I won't take any trade names, but still, containing estrogen progesterone combination is better than giving serially. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think
Yes, yes.
that would be
Yeah, yeah.
Dr. Ambuja, no?
anti-androgen containing also will be fine if she has having hypertension or milder variety of milder type of blood pressure disorders.
Yeah, yeah. And in nutrition, what is your advice? Whether these flax seeds, and because I am food and drug committee chairperson, so I would like to know what type of food you should take. Means they say some phytoestrogens and all those contents are more in this one. So
So
specifically, what you would like to
I think
advise
in
them?
Indian diet we have lot of food containing phytoestrogens, like we have
Yes.
turmeric, we have flax seeds, we have so many things which are already containing high amount of phytoestrogens. So overall the incidence of hot flushes is lower than the
Very
Western
low.
counterparts.
Yes, I
So
agree.
that
Yeah.
itself is helpful. And soya and high calcium content diet, high phytoestrogen content diet is advocated in these women.
Thank you, Suvarna. We will come back to you.
I think
So,
Parag wants to say something.
yeah. Please tell.
Yeah.
Parag is
Hi,
want to add.
Vidya, first of all, thank you and Shobana for
Yeah.
inviting me here. I have a little different view as far as this particular case is concerned. She's still
Yeah.
menstruating, so I would give a lot of emphasis on dietary modifications. The woman can consume a lot of fruits and all sorts of nuts along with tofu. Of course, reduction in caffeine. If she's a smoker, she
Yeah.
has to stop smoking. She has to reduce or
Yeah.
stop alcohol. So all these things should come
Yeah.
first. And then,
Yeah.
if these don't give her
But
relief,
Dr. Parag, she's severely symptomatic.
yeah.
Yeah.
So still I would
So
give it a
now
try.
to
Not
again go
sleep.
in for nuts when she can't even attend her clinic, I think we should press the alarm button and start her on MHT, because she has to attend her clinic.
Yeah, that's fine. But since
And
she's
there's a question on how long you can give
menstruating,
OCPs. I think it can be given for as long as possible. There is no problem as long as the patient is not hypertensive. Only in
Yes.
hypertensive patients you have to let go of OCPs,
Let
but
be
you
get.
can give your MHT because it is
Yeah.
1/4 as potent as OCPs. So you can easily give your conjugated estrogen or something else because they are only 1/4 as potent even in a hypertensive at 47 years.
Yeah.
Yes, can we go to the next one now?
Yeah. Next case we can put, but there is one question for Suvarna. How long you will give these OC pills?
See, in general, pre-menopausal or perimenopausal women who develop such symptoms and they are on OC pills or they require estrogens, progesterones, then we generally advocate till the average age of menopause. In India, it is 48. And even earlier. But in general, she can continue with this for about a year or two, and then slowly stop them and see whether she's because otherwise there is no upper end. She can go on for 2 years, 3 years, and she will keep on getting her cycles after withdrawal period, and she will not know exactly when she becomes menopausal as well. So maybe 6 months, it is actually as per need.
Tailor made.
One message I would like to give is, whenever you are prescribing hormones, OC pills, or any other hormones, please give for shortest possible duration and in smallest possible dose. OC pills actually can be given for longer, but the hormone therapy as such, the menopausal hormone therapy, this is the principle on which we are prescribing today. Give the smallest possible dose for shortest possible time.
Yeah. Thank you. Let us move for the next case.
Dr. Ambuja.
We are getting too much this thing on the screen.
Okay. Dr. Ambuja, when I was giving a lecture on menopause in a peripheral area, I saw a gynecologist whom I had seen 20 years back, and she was actually stooping forward. I could really actually make out that she's badly osteoporotic. And when I started asking her, she, sometimes one of our consultants, she fell down when she was in a shopping mall and there was femur head necrosis. When these people are so obviously osteoporotic, and suppose DEXA is not available in that small town, would you start them on straightaway drugs? Dr. Ambuja.
Good morning, everybody. At the outset, I'd like to thank Vidya Tobi and Suvarna for inviting me to this thing. Alpesh Gandhi is doing such a great thing in doing all these webinars. Coming to the case as it is, Shobana, this is there is no confusion here. It is a clear-cut
Can I
case.
have the next slide, Kiran? Yeah,
No, let
Dr.
me
Ambuja,
finish.
continue.
Don't go for the next slide. Please stand there.
No, you can talk what you like. Yeah.
See, this is a clear-cut case of osteoporosis, both type 1 and type 2B. It is one, she is a teacher of mine, you are telling, must be definitely 80 years. So one is estrogen deficiency, postmenopausal osteoporosis is there. And second is age-related factor is two things. And definitely there is a hunch that is there and scoliosis, all these things to say that it is osteoporosis. So we have to examine her first, take her confidence and see her height.
How do you, suppose you want to examine a patient in a town where there is no DEXA and they look osteoporotic,
DEXA is not the important thing. We are not going to treat on the DEXA report. DEXA will tell whether she is osteoporotic or not. With all these things, severe osteoporosis is there. If it is not available, there is no need to do the DEXA for that. But remaining things are all important because we should tell her how to live with this osteoporosis. First thing is see her height, weight, weight of the patient.
So height decreasing every year is a problem. Actually, if you can make out that your height is decreasing every year, that should be an indication for all gynecologists.
Vertebral fractures are there. So if the height is less, about 4 centimeters in a year, then we can definitely say this is fractures, vertebral fractures are there. So and how to say what is her condition at present. Suppose if she has got a vertebral fractures and if it is thoracic vertebra, the things what we should do is ask her to stand to the wall. If she can occipit, if she can touch to the wall, we can definitely say that there is no fracture.
Not that there is a thoracic vertebral fracture.
Thoracic vertebra. And second is, if it is a lumbar vertebral fracture, if it is present, then you cannot insinuate 4 fingers between the last rib and the...
I think all the members who are listening will now put their hand between their rib and the leg.
Yes.
See her stability of the person, whether she is able to get up from the chair where she is sitting without holding the...
I hope all of you are trying to do that now.
Whoever is listening should be able to do. Yes, I am able to get up.
Yes.
You can staircase if you can climb. This all shows this is not only the osteoporosis that is there, whether calcium deficiency, vitamin D deficiency are there. So with all these things, instead of BMD measurement, I would prefer to go for the X-ray to see whether there are any fractures that are associated with that.
Yeah.
All these things into my mind, then I will start counseling and tell. Minimal basic investigations first I will advise and I'll get it done because she said she is my teacher. It is my duty to do myself, take her and do it. So what are the minimum investigations I'll do? One is the CBP-ESR. Second is blood sugar levels, thyroid, serum calcium and serum potassium and vitamin D levels. These are the basic and creatinine. Bare minimum things that will be present anywhere, any district level that will be available. After doing this, then I will start whether to give the treat osteoporosis. 3 things simultaneously I should do. One is treat osteoporosis. See, osteoporosis, I can't make it into osteopenia. At least I should see it will not worsen or she will not fall down and get the fractures. That's what is my main aim. So for that added, I should give the calcium and vitamin D.
Okay.
I will go.
And what else? Will you start ibandronate because they are so old? You cannot start giving them HRT now.
I will tell about the calcium first. It is a must. Even she is old, she has to take the calcium, isn't it? So how much calcium she should take? It is from 800 to 1,200 for a postmenopausal woman. But added dietary calcium also she should be taking. So advise her for the balanced diet. Let her take proteins. See how much of curd she is taking. What are the other things? Like every day what we eat has got calcium about 300 to 400 grams. But definitely for postmenopausal women, the calcium supplementation is necessary. Calculate either it will be 500 milligrams or 800 milligrams. A little bit about calcium. What are the precautions we should take? Don't give calcium in a single dose. In a divided dose over the day. Take after food, but don't take along with the coffee, tea, or lot of fibers if it is present. Because at this age, everybody say, I got a hyperacidity, they go on taking the antacids. So it will not get absorbed. And many a times I see old ladies, even we, sometimes hypothyroid will be there, or diabetics and all. You should be very careful when we are giving along with the antithyroid drugs or corticosteroids or all these drugs. We should be careful not to take with all these things. One more thing,
very important, because we don't realize all these things. You have to increase calcium.
One more thing we are seeing nowadays. So many things they'll add calcium, zinc, iron, B complex. But please see that calcium should be taken independently. Don't mix with any other thing. Then only the absorption will be good.
Okay. Now after
if anything I left, I think Suvarna you can add. And we should.
No, I just want to say the calcium should be taken in the night time. Then the absorption is better also. The timing.
That is after food. With a glass of milk, if you take, it will be good. Not before food. And second is, what about vitamin D? We are in India, a lot of sun, especially in Hyderabad. Now it is 39 degrees centigrade is there. But still, unless we get exposed at least 1/3 of the body, between 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., you will not get the vitamin D. So vitamin D supplementation is a must, especially for the postmenopausal women.
Yeah, but for obvious osteoporosis, what will you do, madam? Just calcium won't be enough because the bone is broken out.
We are giving the vitamin D for this. Means bisphosphonates is the choice.
Yes.
Before going to that, I just little bit about the vitamin D. We can take vitamin D at a time, not necessary that large doses to be taken. A daily dose about 1,500 or 2,000 international units if we take, that's okay. When we are doing the vitamin D level estimation, suppose if she is in the deficiency stage, then we can add tablets 60,000 every week, and then weekly for about 8 weeks. Then you can make it once a week for about 2 months. That will be enough. That's about the.
Can we move forward, madam? Because it's half an hour is over now.
Yeah, definitely. I'll move forward.
So we will give.
Bisphosphonates are the choice.
These are some of the drugs that can available for osteoporosis.
Right.
And I think Ivandronate 150 milligram per month is something which I use, or even once a year Risedronate injections are good enough, so you don't have to worry about it.
I don't agree with you for giving the injections, because I have seen patients, unless it is essential where the fracture has occurred, otherwise we can do away with the tablets, because I have seen people who have had lot of complications with the injections. Injections is a last thing.
Okay.
Before that, we can go for the tablets. We have got.
They should know that these things are available, because any of us can land up in the situation any day of the time.
Only thing is, I want to explain here for everybody how to take these bisphosphonates is very important. Otherwise, absorption is not good. Though we give it to that level, absorption is very much less. It should be taken on an empty stomach with plenty of water morning, and after taking it should not lie down for about an hour.
Okay,
that's very important.
Okay. Can we go on to the next situation, or we are already
late? Okay. Thank you, Suvarna.
Yeah. Dr. Parag, Vidya, will you ask him, or Parag?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have old ladies, just like my mother. You call her up on phone and she doesn't pick the phone because she has to run to the toilet. Okay. And they don't realize that there are drugs for this. and
Right.
they just take it for granted. Should we treat all of them with your anti-muscarinics, or should you
Yeah.
give Ecyclone cream for all of them, or should you let them know you're old, you just carry a pad with you? What should we do?
No, I think detailed history taking will certainly be a good pointer. Number one. Secondly,
While you're talking, can we have the next slide just on for people?
yeah.
That's
So
all.
next would be detailed vaginal examination where we look for atrophic changes, because that could be one of the contributory thing. If everything
They should
is
come to a
normal on
doctor.
examination, for
They
her
should come
urinary
to a doctor.
symptoms, certainly I would like to try out something like oxybutyrin in the dose of 5 to 15 milligrams every morning. That is what I have used. There are quite a few other options, but I have not used any of them. So I think oxybutyrin would certainly
The
give her a
best
good
shot.
relief.
It's good
Yeah.
enough for most.
Yes, it should help
Yes.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the recent one is Mirabegron. Can anybody tell about this drug?
Mirabegron is supposed to be a
Very
good
good.
new kid on the block, but it takes a long time to start.
Long time
acting.
to add. And you should be very
15
cautious
days.
to give hypertensive patients. Yeah.
But the patients won't have the patience to wait for 15 days. Now you start the drug and you have to wait for 15 days. Whereas your
Yes.
clofenac, darifenacin, all of them, darifenacin takes a little more time, but other
Yeah.
drugs act much faster.
Yes.
So, Parag, will
Definitely.
you
Anybody?
advise that all the old ladies should be starting on these drugs?
If they are
Which
symptomatic and if the symptoms are bothering them, certainly they should be offered this.
Should you put them on estrogen cream before you start them on these drugs?
I think if there are atrophic changes, then certainly I would like to add estrogen cream as well.
But if the atrophic changes are not there on local examination, then you would straight away put on oxybutyrin in your practice.
Yes.
Parag,
Only
have
on
you tried
examination.
any non-hormonal therapy for this?
For the urinary symptoms, I don't think any of the non-hormonal therapy should work.
Yes. So local estrogen, has he helped? Any patients have you treated with estrogen cream and all? And
Especially those who have atrophic changes are definitely relieved of the symptoms because of the local estrogen. But sometimes you may have to add other drugs to take care of the actual problem of urinary symptoms.
Yes.
Thank you, Parag.
Thank you. Yeah. Next case, I'll just ask to our next panelist, Dr. Rohini. I just want to ask this case, that is one 50 years old lady. If she comes, she's having dry vagina, she's having dyspareunia, and she's also having hot flashes, and she's more irritable. So what you will do? Whether you will prescribe drugs or you will counsel her husband, and what you will prescribe, and what would be the best treatment for her?
Yeah, the husbands are very worried.
Yes. This is a very distressing situation, Dr. Vidya. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this webinar. And thank you, Dr. Shobna, as well as Dr. Alpesh Gandhi. This lady has got she has come to you for the dry vagina. The very fact that she has come to you, it means that she is suffering. So you have to take care of her, and first of all, taking a good history. Then, of course, if the partner is also attending the consultation, that would be also nice, because they can tell their all agony, and this has to be treated because it affects the intimacy, and then later on it has got repercussions on psychosexual problems. So we would like to actually examine this patient, rule out associated any morbidities which are there, like hypertension, diabetes and all. And then on clinical examination, if there are atrophic changes, then of course we would like to first start with a local cream, if she can use it, and that will be in the form of either a weak estriol cream, which is a estriol preparation which contains a lesser estrogen. But if symptoms are not getting relieved with this cream, which can be applied maybe every day for first 1 month, and if no improvement, then she can go for a maybe estradiol valeriate skin patch along with the progestogen if she's already having a uterus. And along with this, sometimes we can combine some
Can you change the slide?
as well. That is gel that also can help. So these are the various definitely she can try, but of course she needs to be treated very judiciously, and it has to be taken care of.
Here I would
Yeah.
like to add one more thing.
Active
Next
bowling.
slide. Next slide. Although it's not currently available,
Yeah.
Tibolon is a very good option because it gets converted into estrogen, androgen, and progesterone. The minute it enters the stomach, it goes to the liver and
Yeah.
it gets converted to all three. And the androgenic component gives you a feel-good factor, something called androgen deficit syndrome, and it's supposed to be superior to conventional HT in women with surgical menopause also. Of course, it's currently sometimes available, sometimes not available, but if it is available, definitely it is a good alternative to MHT. Yes.
Shobana, I just want to tell one thing. You didn't mention whether she is postmenopausal or not. Because whenever we are thinking of giving Tibolon, 1 year after the cessation of menses only we should
Yes,
start.
yes.
We cannot start without knowing. That is why, as Parag said, it is the history taking is very important. Only when she is postmenopausal we can start. Otherwise,
Very good tip. Very good tip. Yes.
for severe hot flushes, Tibolon is not the best choice. But minimum hot flushes with the sexual problems, Tibolon is the best.
The best. Tibolon
Okay,
is.
we go on
But
to
it
the
is
next
not
slide.
available. That is
No, it is available right now. Cipla.
Sometimes no. Yes.
Sometimes.
No. Yes. Next. Can we go to the next one?
yeah.
Dr. Suvarna, this gynecologist on OC pills with hot flashes, she started saying that she's feeling very tired on OC pills. And one day she forgot the pill, she was not feeling tired. So she has decided that the OC pills, probably the progesterone content, probably the placebo content, I don't know what. But now she's feeling better and she feels, I don't want to take OC pills. Now what do you do?
If she's feeling better, then she doesn't need anything.
No, but she is feeling hot flashes.
Okay.
She's feeling hot flashes, she's not feeling tired. That's all.
What I'm saying is, basically, there is a kind of fear psychosis amongst patients as well as gynecologists regarding the hormones. So, even if she's a gynecologist, she's taking OC pills or hormones at this age, she herself is also a little bit scared about taking hormones. So it is her mind that is, because there is no direct correlation of taking OC pills and feeling fatigue. Yes, but individual patients do have vague side effects of many such drugs. There are many such vague side effects. So it is possible that she really.
What is the alternative?
Yeah, so she may stop it and she may think that she wants to take something else. So if oral contraceptives are not suitable to her, then we can try other alternatives like natural remedies or any phytoestrogens or something of which I'm not sure how much effect it will be, but it will certainly act as a placebo. And
Anyway, by the way, this patient was given estrogen twice a day and now it is not available because of lockdown. So I think this estrogen people, she was very happy on estrogen. She's saying why they're not making it available. It was giving a webinar.
If she's very happy with this, then all that we want is that the patient is free of symptoms. If she feels free of symptoms with any natural medication, natural remedies, why not give it a trial? Even though there are very few randomized trials of these drugs which have proven efficacy over hormonal treatment, but I think when all of us have seen in practice,
Try to randomize these trials because we cannot sit and have so many menopause patients at one place to have randomized trials. I think for any drug, even if it is natural, even if it is.
If you have a design good infrastructure, you can design a trial.
I agree with Suvarna.
The reason is that all of us have seen in our practice that many of these women do feel better with these medications. So if you take one-on-one, like one given phyto and other given hormone, and then do a long-term longitudinal study, there have not been enough publications which support this fact. But if you believe and if the patient believes that the natural medication is helpful.
All the other alternatives could be venlafaxine, gabapentin. Have you tried all that?
Just repeat your question.
Gabapentin, venlafaxine.
Yeah, non-hormonal also, venlafaxine I like, it is good. And there are some good options, non-hormonal medication, natural remedies, and alternative medications. All of them can be tried, but going back to our dictum that the most effective treatment for these vasomotor symptoms is estrogen.
Okay, come on. We'll go on to the next one, please. Dr.
Yeah.
Vidya?
Yeah. I will just talk to Ambuja now. Many times we get the patients when the hysterectomy is done, especially in cases of endometriosis. And we get many patients from periphery where they do unnecessary hysterectomies. So we had this one, Save Uterus. Many times we find that simple for pelvic inflammatory disease also they do at periphery. Can all listen to me? I don't know. So these patients where they have undergone surgical menopause or premature menopause, whether we should routinely put them on menopausal hormonal therapy? And what is your opinion? Especially whenever the cases of endometriosis come. So what type of menopausal hormonal therapy is given in such patients? And what will be the dosage? How long? All these things, please highlight.
Yeah, Vidya, there are two types of patients here. One is whether hysterectomy with bilateral subcutaneous hysterectomy done at a very early age, like premature, or done at the end about 48, 50 years. Two things to discuss. For the person who is very young, we have to give hormones, not with the prescription or this thing. We have to give hormones until she attains natural menopause.
Yeah. That is correct.
And difference between endometriosis, hysterectomy, and other hysterectomy.
I'm coming to that. Endometriosis, we are worried whether endometriosis will recur or malignancy is a possibility, though it is very rare. We have to give both estrogens and progesterones. So,
yes.
The very early stage, we have to give up to the natural menopause. Or if she is, suppose if she is 48, 50 years, I don't think it is necessary to start immediately unless the patient asks for it, like hot flushes or anything. Some people, they don't complain at all. They don't have any hot flushes. Why should we start unnecessarily for them? Young people, at window of opportunity is there to safeguard their CVS or bones. We have to give
cardiovascular protection. Yes.
Unless they complain. But if at all, if we give for endometriosis, it should be both estrogens and progesterones.
Otherwise, otherwise salpingo-oophorectomy for other indications, no need to give progesterone. But in endometriosis, you have to give this.
Otherwise, there is no need.
Now we go on to the next case. Dr. Parag. Suppose the girl in your OPD comes and says, I'm seeing you treating all HRT patients. My mother is 60 years old, and now I realize that hot flashes have got a treatment. She has undergone oophorectomy 20 years back. Can you also give that medicine to her? What you're giving to other patients? Can you do that?
Okay, before I answer this, just a quick comment about the previous one. In addition to what Dr. Ambuja said, I think Tibolone would be one of the good options for women who undergo hysterectomy and have menopausal symptoms, especially endometriosis. Now coming to this case, now she's a 60-year-old lady. So by dictum, we will certainly not prescribe her hormone therapy. It is definitely not to be prescribed to women over 60, or they should be at least 10 years into menopause, right? So the basic criterion is not fulfilled. They do have increased chances of either thromboembolism and then complications, cardiovascular or stroke. So it is important that we avoid oral estrogen for these women. One can think of transdermal estrogen if there are a lot of symptoms. But of course, for the vasomotor symptoms which the lady is presenting with, which is again little unlikely because she is into menopause for quite a few years. So we can certainly think about one, dietary modification. Secondly, we can always think of soya or isoflavones, which would give her some relief. There are a lot of preparations now available. Or one can think of giving a combination which contains all micronutrients, because such combinations like they say something like Estrogen 100 or something like that, it many times relieves the symptoms and It can
There
be
are
prescribed
studies
to,
done between 40 and 70 also in that drug.
Yeah. They have done.
yeah. So we can prescribe such prescriptions to, such medications for our women, and these women can continue taking them for even a longer duration of time without having any side effects as such.
Yeah. So there are
Vidya,
positive effects and negative effects. People are very scared to give estrogen. So what are the negative effects of estrogen if you give only estrogens?
See,
What
when
happens
we
in
talk
them?
only
Yeah.
about estrogen for women who are beyond 60, then obviously we are always concerned about endometrial proliferation. One, secondly,
Yes.
thromboembolism, stroke, or
Thromboembolism.
even cardiovascular issues. So these are the
Yes.
three
So
things
we
which
should be very careful. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Parag. Dr. Vidya.
Thank you. Yeah. Now this case is totally of Shobna's because the patient is related to her.
Okay.
Yeah, next case. So she is her relative. So let her present this case because it is she knows very well because she has treated her also, her own relative. I want Shobna only to clarify about this case.
Mother's sister who's giving a Onam present to the grandchild, and you can see the grandchild is just around 10 years and the grandmother is shorter than him. So she's got osteoporosis because she's on inhaler glucocorticoid therapy. And so Dr. Rohini, what is your advice for this? Next slide.
Yes, Dr. Shobna, it's a very interesting case, and we do see such patients in our practice also. This patient is particularly having this secondary type of osteoporosis. The primary is which happens with the age, but in this case, it is age plus she's taking glucocorticoids, but it is a inhaler therapy. So it depends on the dose of the inhaler that she's taking. If it is less than 600, then possibly the chances of getting osteoporosis are there, but they are minimal. If she's taking systemic type, then of course the chances increase. So in her case, we can actually start with maybe bisphosphonates, maybe alendronate, and make sure that her bone mass is increased. Or maybe the second choice may be teriparatide, which also
what
can
is
be.
the difference between bisphosphonates and teriparatide for the audience sake?
Bisphosphonates is usually actually decreases the bone resorption, and here in teriparatide, then you also have a new bone which is actually formed, and so the bone mass actually increases. So the chances of getting vertebral fractures and hip fractures, they are very, very minimal. So I think that actually contributes. And if she has got pain, which could be possibly be because of a silent vertebral fracture, as Dr. Ambuja was saying, maybe that you can even add the nasal spray of calcitonin to relieve her pain. So that is
Calcitonin.
Which can be given one puff in each nostril. That can be given morning and evening, and that is also available. So these are the various things which can be done along with calcium and vitamin D and all these, and diet. All these things have to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree because
hormone by subcutaneous injection continuously with that syringe comes like an insulin syringe. It's very easily taken, and you can give it for 5-6 months, in fact. And in fact, teriparatide comes even as a nasal spray now. I don't know if it's there in India, but teriparatide nasal spray is also available abroad. But here we've got injections which you can give daily, even up to 1 year. And when the teriparatide injection is stopped, suddenly the BMD will drop. So when you're stopping it, when you shift over, you have to give some ibandronate or something like that in the stopping period, and then you restart later. So
yes, I agree with Shobna, and many times we forget to take history. Many people, they take these inhalers. Many people, they take inhalers, they take steroids, and they just don't tell us. And this is all steroid mediated things. So we should always think of taking.
And when they go to a shopping mall and they fall down, I know a doctor who fell down and she was given teriparatide, but she stopped it and she just ignored herself. And then next year, without the shopping mall, she broke the other hip. See, now because we
My
take
God.
ourselves for granted, when we have a hip fracture or when we are old and we know we've got osteoporosis, we must continue whatever drug is necessary for us. We are
How
not
long?
supposed to. I think
People
it's
are
1 year,
very
2
lazy
years,
to
1
take.
year, 2 years, depending on the osteoporosis. You go to a city which has got DEXA, you monitor yourself. You go to so many foreign places for holiday. Why can't you go to a city which has got DEXA and get yourself examined? And we do so many things. We must look after our health also and properly monitor ourselves, and then take medicines. Even if it is for our old people also, we must be doing it, because these drugs are available. And now, like that Valiama, she's now nicely sitting up and about. We never knew she had so much of pain. They'd say, we are going to die anyway, so why should we take injections? But they may not die and they may suffer for a long time. So why should you do that? That's the point.
Definitely. Definitely. Just I want to ask, what should be the treatment for recurrent UTI? Because you were talking the other time, no, the other previous
Right.
days. So
Yeah.
just talk to me about something about recurrent urinary tract infections we get in the postmenopausal woman,
Okay.
and what investigations you would like to do, and what treatment you should give to this woman. And just tell me something about prophylaxis, whether you can give,
Right.
and any supportive treatment. Yeah.
Yeah, recurrent urinary tract infection is pretty common in postmenopausal women, and it is typically because of the estrogen deprivation of the urinary bladder, right? So,
Yeah.
local examination is a must again to rule out atrophic changes. If they are there, we would certainly like to start local estrogen. But for her urinary tract infections, it is prudent to do a urine culture sensitivity first, determine which organism is there and what antimicrobial is going to work for that particular woman, and then we should prescribe the said molecule itself. Now, typically, there are quite a few molecules available which are now, norfloxacin is there, big foray of cephalosporins is there, but of late, what we have observed, and I would certainly like opinion of you all, that nitrofurantoin is the one which is effective to most of the organisms these days. So certainly I would like to prescribe nitrofurantoin if the sensitivity is there, and it should be given in the dose of 100 milligram twice a day, at least for 14 days. As far as
What about
prophylactic
continuous
therapy is
prophylaxis?
concerned, 100 milligrams a day, you can continue giving it for a month or so. And of course, therapy is important. One has to ask the woman to take a lot of water, or even some preparations which are alkalizers can be used, as well as little expensive ones, that is the ones containing cranberry, are also useful, and they do give good symptomatic relief within 24 to 48 hours to our women.
These women are having pruritus also. So some
when you call it as a recurrent, that is more important. Minimum of 3 times infection, if they get it in a 1 year period, then they call it as a recurrent. And even when you do culture also, so many times
you will not, it is sterile.
That time it is not necessary to give the antibiotics. Maybe the estrogen deficiency is the cause. Do you agree with me, Parag?
Yeah.
So those times, as you said, it is important to see for the vagina and treat. With that, it will come down. Just because they are complaining of the burning micturition and all, you should not take it for granted that it is a urinary tract infection. Unless the organisms go beyond the 1 lakh per cubic millimeter. And what about fosfomycin?
Fosfomycin,
this is
as a single dose therapy, is used many a times as empirical. Even in pregnancy, it is safe. One can give it to a patient till we get the report of culture sensitivity, because fosfomycin is something which not many of us are using on a routine basis, so probably the organism would have sensitivity to it. I would also like to make a point that many a times supplement of probiotics also helps our women, because then it is supposed to rejuvenate the bacterial flora, and the symptoms, especially if she has local itching or burning at the introitus, which is usually taken care of once we start supplements with probiotics.
No, if the culture is negative, even though the culture is negative, the day one you send for culture antibiotics, or you'll wait for culture?
No, I think depends on the symptoms. Symptomatic relief has to be offered to the woman. As Dr. Ambuja said, one can think of giving just one sachet of fosfomycin on the first day. Wait actually till the culture report. If the culture says that it is sensitive to fosfomycin, one did not add any other antibiotic. But if it is not sensitive to fosfomycin, maybe you can start antimicrobial, which is sensitive. I mean, which shows efficacy for that particular organism.
Probiotics he will use.
Yeah, depending on the
Probiotics.
culture sensitivity.
Not antibiotics, probiotics.
Probiotics, yes,
Yeah.
they are certainly, we can always start them right from day one, and women can continue to take them for a while.
Until now, it is not proved which is a good probiotic.
Good
for
probiotic.
vaginal,
Yes, yes, yes.
Only-
There are oral, there are vaginal,
Vaginal.
probiotics available. I think whichever the woman is comfortable, we should offer them.
Yeah, but drug trial and see. Otherwise, estrogens, vaginal estrogens are the best even for the epithelialization. Once
Yes.
epithelialization takes place naturally, the organisms will subside. So I think we should weigh and outweigh whether only probiotics are going to help or vaginal estrogens.
Just wanted to add one point. So if the lady is getting recurrent UTI, we have to rule out some diabetes as well. And sometimes we would also like to do an ultrasound.
Good point.
Yes, thyroid also.
Both the kidneys and bladder, because sometimes urolithiasis is also associated with recurrent infections. So we have to make sure that there is no obstruction anywhere.
Can we have the next one now?
Now there are rapid fire questions for all, because there are various questions also in the chat box. I just want to know from each one of you, is there any difference between various estrogen regimes which are used in various hormone therapy, and how you can make a tailor-made choice in each of them?
Dr.
So which
Suvarna?
estrogen you will prefer? Yeah.
Okay. Can I take this? See, if
Yeah,
we are
please
dealing
take,
with a
please.
case of premature menopause, the estrogen containing estradiol would be of help, because these are the younger women who can tolerate it well. Mind well, estradiol is the one which is probably the most potent of all estrogens. So that should be reserved mainly for younger women with premature menopause. The conjugated estrogen is something which can be offered to hysterectomized women at a later age group, and again in perimenopausal age group, or women who've entered menopause recently can be offered very low dose estrogen progesterone combinations, where the preferred dose would be, say, of estrogen would be about 15 or maximum 20 micrograms. So that is how I think I would differentiate.
That's what. Estriol is the least potent short-acting estrogen, and conjugated estrogen contains a mixture of estrogens. So estradiol is potent. That
Yes.
is what we want to give the message. Okay. Now about the progesterones, I want to ask Suvarna, is there any difference in the various progesterones used in the hormone therapy?
Yeah, actually in postmenopausal women, all of us are aware that the WHI trial had used medroxyprogesterone, and that was associated with a lot of issues. That's how the whole, the menopausal hormone therapy was revolutionized. And so medroxyprogesterone was used, which is no more is a drug of choice. But in younger women, if you want to use, there is no problem. And otherwise, dihydrogesterone, micronized progesterone, these are two drugs which are associated with less side effects, and their metabolic and hepatocellular strength is good. And there is in general, they are better than medroxyprogesterone. They are, medroxyprogesterone nullifies all the lipid friendly nature of estrogen, but
Yes.
micronized progesterone and dihydrogesterone will be better in that effect. So if you use along with that, maybe you will get a less of side effects of progesterone. And norethistérone and others are I don't think they should be of choice in perimenopausal women. The other two are better. What I feel is in perimenopausal women, we could introduce this, LNG, IUS. If she
IUS.
requires carrying
Yes,
the
yes.
uterus intact, you could put this LNG IUS so that it will take care of the endometrium for which the progesterone is always added. And then you can give oral estrogen. So in that case, that kind of combination will have least side effects as such.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
The message is it's better to give costlier progesterones. It's better for your liver and it's better for your HDL. Okay, next.
What about the transdermal preparations? Can Ambuja comment on this?
Yeah, transdermal
Next
preparations
slide.
are
And oral preparations. Yeah.
I mean, transdermal preparations are really good because the liver effects will not be there. And second is when the SHBG, that is the sex hormone binding globulin, is not affected because of the transdermal preparations.
Preparations, yeah.
This thromboembolism also will be less. Actually, the progesterones are more dangerous than the estrogens, except for the venous
Yes.
thromboembolism. That is why the transdermal, even now sprays are available for us, the transdermal. So we can use, and we can use the spray, which is a spirited ones. It will be absorbed. So transdermal is much better than the oral preparation.
Yeah, Rohini, this is for you. This is, can you use menopausal hormone therapy in hypertensive patients?
If the hypertensive patient is taking already antihypertensive treatment and hypertension is under control, then certainly if she needs it for some reason, then we can give her. But of course, the due counseling should be done for this, because sometimes the dose of the estrogen also has to be tailor-made. Like if we are using maybe 0.6 to 5, then we can even half it. And even if we are using a skin patch or estradiol cream, that also can be halved, and then it can be used. So it will give her relief of symptoms, as well as it will take care of whatever issues she has with the menopausal symptoms. So it can be given, but it can be given with certain precautions, and it can be halved. Like the dose is low dose menopausal hormonal replacement therapy that can be given. That concept has to be also taken into consideration.
Yeah. So in these patients, can we try some non-hormonal treatments in very risky patients, whether they can help us?
You can try them, but as somebody said already, that it can be as good as sometimes the placebo, that you are giving her something. But phytoestrogens also, to certain extent we can give them, but not for a very, very long time. So all these things
Yes.
may be just placebo kind of treatment for her.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Exercise, that is more than any other drugs. I think that is what is needed for her psychology as well as for menopausal symptoms to be taken care of.
yeah. Now there are a few questions in the chat box that everybody can see. One question is, in patient with uterus and surgical menopause, dose and the duration of the drugs, and as a take-home message from Ambuja. Ambuja, madam.
About the Tibolon, you are talking about the Tibolon?
No,
Yeah,
what
you
to
can
do?
talk.
Yeah,
Anything.
you see, the
What is the preference?
therapy works as it is a general rule. One is individualization of the hormones. Second is we can give up to 60 years and 10 years after the hysterectomy that is being done. Then once it is always symptomatic. Once symptoms have come down, you stop it and see whether they are going to recur or not. You don't need to continue forever. Up to 60 years is a safe period, or 5 to 10 years we can use it.
Yes, and endometriosis with perimenopause. When you will start this menopausal hormone therapy? How long? And are there any chances of malignancy in these patients?
So that's
This
why
is another question.
yes, rarely the stricture is noted where the ureteric stricture is noted only when estrogens are given. That is why estrogens and progesterones have to be given to prevent malignancy for these patients. So both the estrogens and progesterones have to be given, even though hysterectomy and both ovaries are removed for the endometriosis patient. How long?
In the natural age of menopause, they have to continue it. And actually, the studies with progesterone and estrogen therapy have been done up to 5 years also. Risk of breast cancer is not there for 5 years. The scare of cancer is really not there.
Not there. We can safely give 5 to 10 years. There is no problem. But age limit is there. Once it is symptomatic, symptoms have come down, there is no need to continue with the
after natural age of menopause, and after that age where you are supposed to get flashes, are they not there, maybe you can stop it also.
We can try with the bezodoxifene for these patients. Suppose bezodoxifene plus conjugated estrogens, if it is present, that also is seen some of the cases.
It obviates the side effect of progesterone.
Yeah. To prevent progesterone side effects, we can combine these two things. I think the trials are there. Safety aspect also is proved, but only thing is it is not available right now in India, but it is FDA approved.
Getting available, I think, in some cities now, slowly.
Maybe in Bombay.
I don't know, in some North Indian cities. Yeah.
One more question on yoga and meditation.
For every case,
exercise, it plays a vital role.
Or must. It is not the exercises.
Must.
Yoga and meditation. Exercises, the training of the calories and all will be there. But yoga and meditation, peacefully it will be, patient can do it. And best way of doing exercise is the weight bearing exercise. The best is walking. Patient can walk every day about 20 to 30 minutes, vigorous walk. That's the best exercise what they can do. Surya Namaskar, if you do it, it is still very good. All the frailty will be all the joints will move and patient will be very comfortable with all these things.
Parag, there is a question for you about the pruritus vulva. Many patients, they come in the postmenopausal age group.
Right.
So that's what. Please answer this.
First of all, we would like to rule out local infection, whether she has vulvovaginitis. If it is there, it needs to be treated. Secondly, many a times it so happens that women come to us with pruritus vulva or recurrence of it, then we must investigate her for diabetes. And if it is there, it has to be managed and controlled. Third thing is, if there are local atrophic changes, local estrogen cream is something which is of great help, along with probiotics. And maybe there are certain hygiene washes available which can give good relief to a lot of women.
Dr. Vidya?
Yeah.
Can I just add one point very quickly? Regarding previous question on diet and this on exercise and yoga.
I did it.
So,
Can
I do that?
I wanted you to answer actually. Yes.
So I think, as Madam said, the sun salutations, but certain yoga exercises which have been actually recommended by Geeta Tai Iyengar. She has written a very wonderful book on menopause and yoga, and it has really given, it is an eye-opener. It was a lot of strengthening exercises, flexibility and strength, because this is what the sarcopenia also exists in this perimenopausal group, and that is also taken care of. So I think that those things have to be followed, maybe either 2 to 3 times in a week you can do, and of course combined with exercise, as Madam Ambuja has said, and that really works very well, and it also increases your endorphin levels, so that mentally also you are quite balanced and you will be able to cope with maybe the hot flushes, maybe the tantrums of all the menopause. So I think that is also one lifestyle that one has to adopt during this age.
I just want to say one word about the Parag's comment. I don't agree using the liquid, sanitary liquids, because they themselves sometimes, like Dettol liquid and all, they themselves cause the irritation and pruritus. That's why nowadays it is advised not to use anything except cleaning with the water. Ordinary soap and water, that is enough. And second thing is, we should take care that they use loose underwears. If it is very tight, not aerated, then also it produces the pruritus. Apart from all these things,
Chemical pruritus.
yeah,
also.
chemical pruritus, and sometimes they use pads, sanitary pads. They themselves sometimes they cause the irritation. You should take care of all these things. I don't know whether all of you agree with me about using the liquids and all, but somehow I've seen that they get a lot of pruritus because of that also.
Yeah, Dr. Ambuja, when I meant local hygiene products, these are the ones which contain lactic acid, and they are very, very gentle for the vulval. I mean, their pH is adjusted in order to not to create excoriations or irritation of vulva.
Yeah, that is true. Keeping the vagina dry, external genitalia dry, is more important.
Yeah. Some questions are there about they are very much concerned with the breast cancer, menopausal hormone therapy and breast cancer. So I want somebody to comment on this because it is very important about the menopausal hormone therapy and the screening of breast.
Okay, now after WHI trial, all of us started worrying about the incidence of breast cancer after menopausal hormone therapy. But it is prudent that before we put the patient on menopausal hormone therapy, a good clinical examination, either a mammography or a sonomammography, has to be done. Of course, apart from general clinical examination, and the woman has to be counseled that she has to be very particular about follow-up. So typically the first follow-up is after a month, so that whether we find out whether she tolerates it or not. Then after we call her back after 3 months and see how much symptomatic relief that she has got. And if she desires to continue the hormone therapy for a longer time, obviously it is recommended that mammography should be done ideally every year, but in our scenario we should be doing it at least every 2 years. If mammography is not available, sonomammography or a typical ultrasound of breast is very much a feasible option, and which would guide us about this. Now, in her history, if there is a positive family history of breast cancer, one has to take it with a pinch of salt and then decide whether menopausal hormone therapy is really worth giving to the patient or not.
There's one point to comment one thing about the breast cancer, apart from what Parag told. One is the main culprit to cause the cancer breast is the progesterones, not as we thought it is the estrogens. So it is very carefully presenting. If the history of cancer breast is present in the family or the patient is suffering, we can go for the not the oral estrogens, we can go for other types of estrogens. One. Second is, previously we were thinking Tibolone we can use it for the breast cancer patient, but it is ruled out that if the patient has got a family history of breast cancer or breast cancer for herself, not to use the Tibolone. In such cases, with conjugated estrogens is a better choice than giving the ordinary progesterones. We can avoid progesterones.
I wanted to add was a self-examination of the breast, which I think we have to counsel our patients to do it, because that's one thing which we can teach to our patient and educate them, and maybe we can detect it at an earlier stage as well.
Yeah, you are very correct, Rohini. Though in foreign countries, they say there is very little place for the breast self-examination, but in India, at least at that stage, they can present to us. So every month patient should be told that how to do the self-breast examination is very, very important. And once in 3 months, if we do the clinical breast examination, it is good.
One thing about Tibolone, the mammographic density is not affected. Therefore, when patients are where you have to follow up, in progesterone and all, that when the dense breast tissue is there, you may not be able to get a proper picture on mammogram. So as an HRT which does not affect breast density, Tibolone is a better option compared to the others.
Yes. Now
Are there
I
any
think
other questions?
we have any other. No, there are many questions and they have opinion also. So shall we take a few more?
Yeah, we can.
I don't know.
If time permits, we don't mind.
We can, ma'am. We can.
We can take. Okay. So now this is for Parag, because he was discussing about UTI. A 54 years menopausal lady already on Mirabegron for 3 months, and culture sensitive is normal. Means they have done culture, it is negative, but has got complaint of night wetting occasionally. So what should be given to this
If
patient?
she's already on medication and not responding, probably I would send her to a urologist for local assessment, and it could be an indication for doing a cystoscopy and see.
And how the estrogen cream will help?
For such a lady, if there are atrophic changes, estrogen cream may help. But if, in spite of taking treatment, if she's not getting symptomatic relief, then certainly a urologist opinion is warranted.
I want somebody to comment on the prophylaxis of prevention is better than cure. No? So for osteoporosis, there are many questions like which calcium is, so many calcium preparations. So which calcium
They
is
take calcium
best?
citrate, but any calcium will do. And an average South Indian diet actually contains only 500 milligram of calcium. I had calculated it when I was giving for a talk. So you have to supplement with calcium, whether you are taking good lot of milk. You cannot take so much of milk. So prophylaxis with calcium is necessary for all postmenopausal women, even gynecologists. They should be taking their calcium even if they're taking a lot of milk. And walking is necessary. Weight-bearing exercises.
Yes.
Shall I tell? Prophylaxis starts from the younger age group. As mothers and grandmothers now, we should tell our younger children that they should start taking the calcium like milk and all from the younger age group, and then doing lot of exercise is very, very important. Not only the calcium, vitamin D, proteins, all these things are necessary because the peak bone mass will be there only up to 35 years, and afterwards it will not form. So that stage is very important to prevent osteoporosis at a later stage.
You can start messaging on the mobile phone and sitting in one place only after 35 years of age. Till 35, no mobile.
That is true. That is
and
true.
about the calcium, any calcium is the same. Calcium carbonate.
But I'll add on to it, the molecule which has calcium citrate or something, it helps in a better absorption in elderly patients, like
I do agree.
postmenopausal. Maybe you will make us just a little choice over the other components which are not having citrate compound.
But usually they don't take regularly, but insist that they follow the instructions what I told already, how to take calcium. That's more important.
India's question was prophylaxis for osteoporosis. It is like you have to have a good diet, good exercise, weight-bearing exercise, take adequate calcium and vitamin D. I think these are very good measures to prevent and maintain the bone health. But in case with menopause and post-menopause, if they have found that the BMD is dropping down or it is less, then some supplement of some drugs of like bisphosphonates or even the hormone therapy in first 5 years post-menopausal may help in maintaining the bone health. I think that is what...
One thing I want to tell, don't hesitate to give hormone therapy. As Varna said, window of opportunity, don't miss it.
First 5 years after menopause,
please prescribe the hormones because estrogen is the stimulators.
And please reserve alendronate.
Prophylaxis. Nowadays, it is proved beyond doubt. If the high risk factors are there, it is an indication to give hormones for the first 5 years after the menopause, but the effect will subside once you stop the hormones. That is why we try to start bisphosphonates afterwards, continue with the bisphosphonates.
So reserve the bisphosphonates for a later age group, because take
Yes.
the advantage of the window of opportunity, immediate
Yes.
postmenopausal phase, and give hormone therapy. And
I
then
do
later
agree.
on you can choose to give alendronate, because you cannot give hormone therapy and it is associated with lot of side effects if you give at the patients beyond 60.
You are correct. Only after the hormone therapy we can start.
Yes. Thank you very much. I want each one of you give one take home messages, and I feel that now the people would like to be a member of Indian Menopause Society, which is one of the big societies, and we have our past president of Indian Menopause Society, we have president elect, vice president, secretary, everybody is there on panel, and it was very wonderful discussion. And still some questions are coming in chat box. They can send mails to them, they can get the answers definitely. And I feel that they want to open some menopause clinic also. So can somebody guide one sentence? They can tell about one sentence is very less, but they can just tell what all things they should have in this menopause clinic, how to open. And I think everything is given in this IMS website. They can check to the website. But anyway, the all stalwarts are there. Let them tell one take home message on this panel, as well as they can add on.
I think I would like to begin saying the take home message. See, whenever any doctor prescribes medicine, the doctor himself has to be confident of prescribing.
That
So
is
my
true.
message is there to all the gynecologists. So be confident. Don't get scared of prescribing hormone therapy. And my message to the patients is, don't have that fear psychosis of development of cancer with hormone therapy. Go ahead and give it judiciously as and when required, and do not overshoot the the restrictions that have been laid down. And what are they? Give hormone therapy for shortest possible time and smallest possible dose, and never go beyond 60 years, and never give beyond 10 years of menopause. I think these are few things that all of you must remember forever when you practice menopause.
Yes.
I want to
Ambuja madam.
Yeah. First and foremost is, along with all the medications, whatever you give, balanced diet and lifestyle modification are very, very important. Don't forget to do the exercises, walking, because don't think that menopause is an old age. Don't do anything. Don't sit at home. Please do. Be active in your life. Do exercises, balanced diet, eat regularly, drink milk every day, 2 times. Along with the other medications whenever it is necessary. That's what is very, very important, especially weight bearing exercises.
Yes. Dr. Parag? Yes, Dr. Rohini? Please, Parag, I don't know whether he's there. Yeah.
Don't wait till the menopause to have all these symptoms. Start at an early age, as early as possible, because that's the time when you are going to acquire your bone mass. And if you want to avoid these consequences of osteoporosis, I think you have to start working when you are young. So avoid the sedentary lifestyle. If you have to be sedentary, then positively exercise, take the diet, and maybe whenever required, don't hesitate to go to the doctor and take advice, and start with the HRT. And we have to educate all our women patients who are actually coming to us, and make sure that you keep some dedicated time for them. As Dr. Vidya said, the menopause clinic that has to be dedicatedly done, so that they can be looked after well, and we will be medico-legally also safe, so that we don't get any complications of HRT. Thank you very much, Vidya, for
thank you, Rohini. It was a emergency landing, but anyway, it was very nice discussion and take home messages. Where is Dr.
Because Parag is not there, shall I tell one word? Many people they hesitate to go to the doctor regarding the sexual aspects.
Yeah,
So I
dyspareunia.
think it is necessary this is a part of menopausal problems. They should go and consult the doctor, because many people nowadays, 50% of the people are living beyond the age of menopause for 40 years. So about the sexual aspects, consult the doctor. That's very, very important. And thank you, Vidya. Thank you, Shobana. Thank you, Suvarna. Parag is not there.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm here. I'm here.
Nice to know you are there.
Parag,
Instead of you, I spoke. What to do? You are not there, Parag.
Oh, no, I'm here. So, yeah,
Where
Vidya,
is
just
the
one
message?
take home message
yeah,
from
one
secretary.
is that
Yeah.
we as gynecologists have to understand that there are a lot of women who are going to live their life, almost 1/3 of their life, into menopause, and we have to understand that this is going to be a huge public health problem in the years to come, and we must propagate the knowledge of menopausal medicine to the youngsters. Suvarna and Dr. Ambuja, when we were office bearers in 2017, we did start a program, and I think Dr. Ambuja now next year, and Shobna, you would certainly become president of Menopause Society in the near future. So I think we, all of us, must take it forward and create its awareness in the minds of the youngsters that it may not be as glamorous as endoscopy or infertility, but it is need of our country, and a lot of women are going to suffer if we don't detect and treat them in time. So we have to, all of us together have to make it more glamorous so that people understand that it's a problem.
Yes, yes. Really, thank you. And I feel that I end with the sentence "aging gracefully." That should be our motto, and we should help our patients as well as ourselves. I learned a lot from this panel. Thank you very much, Shobna. And I had an insight of osteoporosis. When Shobna told me that you have to get up from the chair without taking the help, then I really did that yesterday. So really, the osteoporosis is really insight to me, and definitely everybody should check their DEXA, as she told. So thank you all the panelists. Thank you, Suvarna. Thank you, Ambuja madam. And I want to conclude this one. Shobna, to conclude now. Shobna, you say something, no?
There's a question asking how to join Menopause Society. There is Menopause
Society. That is
all the states. You go to the website of the Menopause Society, www.indianmenopausesociety.org, and you will find the chapter nearest to you. Talk to the chapter secretary and president of the society, and they will join you. All of you are welcome to come to Menopause Society. It's a smaller society. We have a lot of trips and we have a lot of camaraderie, and you'll enjoy being a part of it. Please welcome.
Member-elect. I'm a member-elect of
Yes. Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shield Healthcare also.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I would like to thank Dr. Kiran as well as
Chitrakala.
Yeah. I want to personally thank.
Lot of hard work to get everything going.
Dr. Chitrakala and Dr. Kiran helped a lot in getting it.
Ma'am, this is Dr. Kiran, ma'am. First of all, a big thanks to Dr. Vidya, ma'am. I think initially when Vidya ma'am told about this, I was also skeptical. When I saw the names which she sent, I got scared actually. How are we going to get these people on the panel? Because these are all legends and they're all oceans in their particular field. So we have 5 oceans in the world, and these are the oceans right now in this particular field. So a big thank you to Vidya ma'am. And I have to give a big thanks to Shobna ma'am also. So many times ma'am will call me, we make this change, we make that change. Both of them used to check on every aspect of this webinar. And my personal thanks to all the panelists, especially Dr. Parag, Professor Ambuja ma'am, Rohini ma'am, Suvarna ma'am. Thank you so much for being part of this, I would say, exciting and fantastic webinar, because there are a lot of compliments also in the chat. You must have seen them. They found it very informative, very practical, and you were able to address all their clinical challenges today. Rather than putting like a mundane putting slides and talking about it, I think this format is there to stay. And in these pandemic times where we are all searching for something called normal, that's what Modi ji tells. I think it's made for a great learning. And thank you so much.
I must thank Kiran and Shield Healthcare. They have product like Estrogy, and I have personally used this Estrogy for my sister-in-law and all. I have got very good results. I have given for 2 months, and really they have some herbal preparations, no doubt, but they are real patients, and we can try on many patients also. With these words, I thank everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks to all of you. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye. Bye. Bye.